Year 2020, month of December. This is an audio only video going over the end of the year 2020 and the news related to software development and related fields. It's near the very end of 2020 right now. Less than 10 days left. First, I guess we should start with coronavirus or COVID-19. Created a whole new genre of mobile apps, including contact tracing, an app by Google called Google Health for just a big data pandemic processing. And with this has been a whole slew of privacy concerns and the usual stuff about how should I prove that something is private, even it's a closed source system, and just kind of that epistemology of privacy. We need to be working on that. A lot of old government mainframes that were running COBOL programs had some problems processing a lot of the unemployment claims. So there's a lot of old information systems out there we need to replace. I guess it's kind of good that those old COBOL systems really got their mileage. There's always that. Apple actually entered the computer chip market with Intel and AMD with their M1 chip. The first generation M1 chip was demonstrated in an MacBook Air, and people were doing video editing as good as on an iMac Pro on a MacBook Air with the first generation Apple M1 chip. So it's good to see that space of chips and personal computers being more competitive now. This is probably the best thing that Apple ever did. And even if you never use Apple products, this will affect you because now it's just a much more competitive market. And if you haven't used Apple products before, been a developer, you might want to look at it now because you're going to have some really neat toys to play with now. The Chinese company Huawei this year had its was effectively banned in some countries due to privacy concerns, and the Chinese apps TikTok and WeChat were banned or had to have their ownerships changed to operate in the United States. It's a very interesting news item. I do believe that cyber nationalism is going to be an important buzzword going forward. That doesn't mean that TCP/IP is all of a sudden not going to be a universal standard. We're still going to have TCP/IP, the encryption standards, Unicode, all that stuff. But there will be just some small subsets that are cut off for national security purposes, and that's understandable. We should just be adults about this. The new Xbox and the PlayStation 5 came out this year. I think it's kind of during a pandemic, there was a higher demand for video games as people were staying at home more often. And I think releasing them this year was probably tough, but necessary because now everything is already warmed up for next year. Because once people get their vaccines, they're probably going to still be playing these. And so, if you're in those industries, you're going to have, again, neat toys to make programs for. Also in the gaming space, finally, we got a new Half-Life game, and it was for VR. And so VR now has like a gold standard and actually had a real killer app, which they really haven't had in a long time in Half-Life Alyx. Good to see City 17 again. Here at the end of 2020, Adobe Flash is going to not be supported by the major browsers such as Firefox, Microsoft Edge, Safari, and Chrome. The Blue Maxima Flashpoint project is still out there, where we're trying to preserve a lot of the old Flash games and software. Newgrounds is creating their own new engine for their own content, written in Rust. That's going to be an interesting thing to see, the new Newgrounds. Go, Rust, and Clojure continue to be hyped, but not really used that much, as I have talked about before. But that's okay. We'll just see what happens today. This year was a kind of a topsy-turvy year for a lot of industries, including software. So that's it for 2020. Looking forward for productive next year and productive new decade. Thank you.